we are out shooting the XDm 10mm today. We're at 10 yards, bringing some steel. Gotta love it. And for those of you curious as to what we are shooting today, we are shooting some Berry's 200 grain total metal jacket bullets. 200 grains going 1,200 feet a second. That's a normal load right there, baby. All right, let's see how we do. Nice. Alright, so we are back inside, and before I get anyone commenting about my outfit, I wear the camo pants because they're $12 at the Milsurp store, and if I'm going to be running around and running and gunning, so to speak, I'd rather get these wrecked than my expensive pants. So we're back inside. The gun's been given a little bit of time to cool off. We are clear, obviously. Again, check the guns before the videos. Take that magazine out, and let's just start talking about it. Now, I've had some ups and downs with this gun. When I first got it, this was my first legitimate handgun. I've owned a High Point before this, but I didn't take it too seriously. I was just kind of plinking with it, so to speak. So this is like my first foray into legitimate handgun ownership, and legitimate handgun shooting. And I've been shooting this since October. It's the beginning of February right now. And I'd say I'm doing okay for handling 10mm. Now that being said, if you followed the ups and downs that I've had with this, I posted a couple videos. I will make a little playlist or something about them. But you will know that A, I have a problem with taking it apart, which lo and behold, happens on camera again, but at least I got it apart. And then B, you may also remember that the guide rod was really, really beat to hell. So I replaced it with a not technically a solid guide rod, it's a heavier guide rod, but it seems to be a lot better built, so hopefully it lasts. This is it after the first 100 rounds. You can see that it's wore off the paint, but I'm not too concerned about that because I wore off the paint over there on the front when I was putting it into the gun, so it's probably just the paint wearing off. But not only do I have the heavier guide rod, but I also have a 22-pound recoil spring in here. I recommend both for this gun if you plan on shooting full power 10mm. If you plan on just shooting the factory 180 grain stuff that you can buy off the shelf, you probably will be okay. It will be heavier recoiling than the gun probably needs, and you would probably, even if you're shooting that low of a load, you would probably want to bump up the spring to a 20-pound recoil spring, just because the 18-pound recoil spring that comes with is, once again, in the 40 cal XDMs as well. So definitely an upgrade that is needed. Now, the one thing that let's see, do I have a round in my pocket? Sometimes I do. Nope, got to step off camera. Now, for the purposes of this video, I let the gun cool down and we're disassembling it, so don't yell at me in the comments. We're going to be using one of my 200 grain hard cast 10mm loads for this demonstration, just to point out that the gun has a fully supported chamber. What does that mean? Why is that important? Well, Glocks do not have a fully supported chamber, which means beneath the chamber at the very bottom, where the feed ramp goes up, there's a little bit of the case that is exposed beyond the feed ramp. Why is this important? In 9mm, 40, 45, 380, I don't know what other calibers Glocks are made in, 22 now, it's not really a concern. Those cartridges, in my opinion, again, I'm not an expert, I don't claim to be an expert, In my opinion, those cartridges don't generate enough pressure for that unsupported chamber to be a concern. However, 10mm is making, if I remember correctly, over 35,000 psi inside that little case when a round's going off. So, again, do a lot of people get away with shooting full power buffalo bore stuff out of their 10mm Glocks? Absolutely. But I have personally met someone who had a Glock 20 fail on them where a round blew out the very bottom where that unsupported chamber is, blew out the bottom, blew out the magazine, and blew out the side. And if you know Chook from Chook's Outdoor Adventures here on YouTube, he met someone up in Alaska who had that same thing happen to him. So it's not uncommon. It's not something that, I mean, it's uncommon. I shouldn't say that it's not. It is uncommon, but it does happen. So I personally, and a lot of other people, blame the failures on the unsupported chamber. It's the weak link out of everything. It's the weak link. So again, I've answered a couple questions on my videos about the XDm failing, as well as some other ones, mentioning that if you're going to shoot full power 10mm, you better have a fully supported chamber, just because, again, those case pressures are through the damn roof with this cartridge. Now the gun itself, if I reassemble it, or before I do that, let's show it off a little bit. Let's show off the internals. Pretty familiar design if you've seen an XDm or really any striker-fired polymer handgun. This looks fairly familiar. It's kind of a generic-looking design. It's a little gunked up. Both the slide and the frame are pretty gunked up just because of how much I shoot the thing. I don't really clean it all that often. I think I've cleaned it once since I've owned it. I have reapplied the oil twice. I do specifically use Lucas gun oil, Lucas gear gun oil, I don't know. It's the same people that make the oil that's inside your car a lot of the times. So they make a good product. It's actually the oil that's recommended to be used in this gun, so figuring why not stray away from what's recommended. So this gun itself has a 4.5-inch barrel, and they do make a 10mm XDm with a 5.25-inch barrel. And I went with the 4.5-inch barrel because this is going to be my backpacking gun, my wilderness gun, whatever you want to call it. We have hundreds, we got millions of acres of public land in my neck of the woods, just in northern Idaho alone, not including Montana and not including Washington. So we got a lot of territory to roam around and play around in. But the issue with that is my neck of the woods is also home to grizzlies, moose, big cats, wolves, coyotes, lions, tigers, bears, oh my. So we need something that can defend against those. So now a lot of people out there will say that 10mm is nowhere sufficient enough to handle big game such as bear, moose, mountain lion, so on and so forth. And while 44 Magnum is definitely more suited for the task and does generate higher power than 10mm, I'm still getting, with this hard cast 10mm load, I'm still getting 1,220 feet a second out of this gun, out of this specific gun. 4.5-inch barrel. So is that the same power as a 44 Magnum? No, it's not nearly as powerful as a 44 Magnum. That's only, what, 665 foot-pounds of energy, somewhere around there. So fair amount of energy, more so than a lot of semi-auto handguns, but not 44 Magnum. The trade-off, though, is the capacity, the ability to reload said capacity, and the overall weight. A Ruger Alaskan, which is a fair choice for 44 Magnum, and yes, they do make 454 Casull and some different cartridges. Some snow falling off the roof, excuse me. But that handgun weighs 45 ounces unloaded. Unloaded. This gun, and I understand it would be a little bit different because of the guide rod, but this gun weighs, if I remember, 31.5, so we'll call it 32 ounces unloaded. And yeah, once you throw a fully loaded magazine in there or you fill up the cylinder, the weight's going to kind of be tit for tat, gun for gun. But for me personally, there's a reason why I bought this over a 44 Magnum. If I'm able to carry 16 rounds, 15 plus 1 of 10mm, plus possibly a reload, I would rather have that over a 44 Magnum revolver. That's just me, because of the fact that I'm able to get those quick follow-up shots. I'm able to have a higher round capacity, and, again, the weight. Now, I may not be the best shot in the world. You saw me shooting. But I was able to get on target fairly quickly. I was able to transition targets fairly quickly. So it's not impossible. I've only been shooting this gun since October, after all, and a lot of the times I haven't been shooting it just because of the snow covering my range. So it's possible to get good shooting a powerful handgun, but I'm able to shoot this one very quick and fairly accurately. So that's why I would prefer this over a 44 Magnum. And to the people that will say you only need, or you need at least a 44 Magnum for bear defense, moose defense, so on and so forth, I ask who's the source. I ask who is saying that. Because from what I've seen, a lot of the people saying that are people in the lower 48 who don't have to worry about bears or moose or any large game that may be doing them harm. The most arrogant ones that I've seen, I saw one from Texas and I saw one from Chicago. Both of them said something along the lines of, I hope you have the front sight removed for when that bear shoves it up your... So, pretty arrogant from someone that's in Chicago, but what do I know? I guess they got grizzlies walking down the middle of Chicago or something. So, moving past that, I think that because of the capacity, I think because of the power, and because of the fast follow-up shots, this lends itself very well to backpacking and very well to carrying in a wilderness environment. So I stress again the capacity. These magazines, they're pretty well made, metal magazines, 15 rounds inside the magazine plus 1 in the gun, 16 rounds of firepower right there. The mags, I'm not too happy about the price. They're like something ridiculous. They're in the mid-30s per magazine, which is crazy. That's way out there, but I'm not, at this point, I'm not stocking up on these mags too much, so it's okay. At the bottom of the magazine, there's a bit of a, I don't know if you could tell, but a bit of a lip there, and I kind of like that for my hand when I grip it. It's nowhere near that base, but if you got slightly larger hands, it would, go down a little bit further, allow you to get that decent purchase on the gun. But the reason I went with this over the 5 1/4 is it kind of comes back to partially the weight and partially the maneuverability, handle ability of the gun. Yes, I would get higher velocities out of a 5 1/4 inch barrel or a 6-inch barrel or so on and so forth. You get higher velocities the bigger the barrel most of the time. But for myself, I kind of look at things like it's going to be a carry gun. It's meant to be at least somewhat light and easy to maneuver, easier to carry. And if I have a couple, not a full inch, but a little bit longer sticking down there, it's a little bit more cumbersome, that's a little bit more weight, and I'm getting, again, over 1,200 feet a second with hard cast bullets out of this 4 1/4 inch barrel, or 4.5, excuse me. So I'd say that that's just fine. Now, a couple small features that I want to go over before we talk a little bit more about the gun itself is the chamber indicator and the cocking indicator. That's the best ways I can think of them. This little nub back here sticks out when the striker is cocked back. And that's great if you are going to be carrying this, because you could easily just look and see, oh, my striker's pulled back. So if I need to use this thing, it's ready. Well, how do you know if there's a round in the chamber? Well, you could use the very nice grips that are in the front, or I can't think today. Cutouts that are in the front, I'll just call it that, really lends to nice press checks. I like doing that a lot. Makes me feel a little tactical. But you could also use the chamber indicator. This little thing right there will stick up whenever, I don't know if you can see it, but that will stick up whenever there is a round inside the chamber. So again, very cool to be able to just look down into your holster and say, oh, I have a round chamber and ready to go if I need to use this gun. Very, very handy. So I talked about the chamber, I talked about the barrel length. Let's talk about the barrel itself. Now it does say match across the side of it, and you could think to yourself, well, that's because it's a match barrel. Or you could be like my cynical ass and be, well, it's because they want to make some more money. Because something tells me that this is just a normal old barrel that they decided to put match across the front of it. Why? To be able to sell it as a match barrel. Because last time I checked, they don't make XDMs in 10mm with a standard barrel or a non-match barrel, so just a little guess. But it is more accurate than me. It's probably more accurate than you as well. And it's a fairly decent barrel. It shoots well. Again, it's more accurate than I will ever be, so it's a decent little barrel. And the thing that I like about it, more so than the Glock Model 20, once again, picking on Glock a little bit more, is the fact that it uses just normal rifling. It's not the, I think it's polygonal rifling what Glock uses. But the reason that's important is Glock's pistols from the factory are not supposed to have hard cast rounds shot through them because of that rifling. If you do so, you'll probably be able to get away with it for probably 100, maybe 200 rounds, but after that, your accuracy is going to be suffering a lot as those hard cast rounds just wear away at the rifling super, super fast. So again, Glocks are fairly accurate, Glocks are fairly reliable. They aren't too well suited for 10mm though. So, picking on Glock a little bit more. But again, it just has the normal rifling in it. It will shoot hard cast. It will shoot normal copper jacketed bullets. It'll shoot pretty much everything. It works very, very well. I did not have any malfunctions with this gun as far as shooting wise. Yes, the guide rod broke, but beyond that, the gun has been perfectly fine and will continue to be, I assume. Now, I want to talk about the trigger because that's something that a lot of people like to either hate on guns about or love guns about. They either love the trigger or hate the trigger in guns. And the trigger in this gun isn't bad. It's not great, but it's definitely not bad. I would say it's one of the better polymer striker-fired triggers that are out there in a production gun. Yeah, you could get aftermarket triggers, but stock trigger, it's alright. So let's see, we got it cocked. We obviously have the little trigger safety there. Got a fair amount of take-up right there. A little bit of creep is fairly tough. And break. Let's see the reset. There, right there. So, not terrible, fair amount of reset, but overall, trigger's decent. It's a decent striker-fired polymer handgun trigger. It's not going to be like a really nice single-action revolver or anything like that, but it does all right. Now, the next thing I want to cover is the grip and the safeties. Now, the grip itself, I really like the grip of this handgun. I left the medium-sized grips. It does come with small, medium, and large-size grip panels. So if you have larger hands or smaller hands, you're good to go. And I do like that. I like that they include that. By the way, speaking of the magazines, it did come with 2 magazines, which was nice. They should have given me 3. So the grip feels fairly nice, and with the medium-sized grips and my sized hands, as you saw when I was ghosting the trigger, might have seen, I'm able to put the pad of my finger right there on that trigger fairly comfortably without too much issue. Also, I'm able to get my support hand in there and really get a good solid grip on there. At the front of the trigger guard, it does have some grooves cut out there for when you're putting your index finger out in the front. And there is this nice little cutout there for your thumb to rest, so it is definitely a very comfortable gun to shoot and handle. Now the safeties. A lot of people complaining about grip safeties on defensive handguns. And I get that. I understand that You don't want any external safeties on your gun if it's going to be defensive. Alright. You know, there's some people that's fine with, and for myself, I'm fine with the grip safety. Because if you know how to grip a gun, you know how to shoot a gun, and you practice with said gun, you're probably going to be able to grip it to the point that grip safety isn't an issue for you. But if you don't know how to train, or you don't know how to shoot that gun competently, you may have a problem with the grip safety. Honestly, it's not a grip safety, it's an idiot safety. If you don't know how to work a grip safety, you shouldn't be firing the damn gun to begin with. If you don't... Honestly, people, just grip the thing. That's all you gotta do. Getting past that, going beyond my rant, I'm sure I'm gonna get some comments and downvotes for that. Go ahead, tactitards, go ahead and tell me how I'm wrong about the grip safety. I've never had it impede me, not once. But not only do we have the grip safety, as well as the internal safeties that these modern guns have, but we also have the standard trigger safety, which works very well. If we depress the grip safety and try to depress the trigger, it's not going to work. Not until you depress the trigger safety. Want to shoot the gun without gripping it properly? Again, who is going to grip this gun like that? Like this? Really? Really? Come on, people. Anyways, if you do grip the gun like you're halfway retarded, you won't be able to fire it until, oh, I know how to grip gun now. Oh, people annoy me sometimes. Anyways, after I stepped on those people's toes, come at me in the comments, I love it. Let's talk about the accuracy. Again, the barrel is more accurate than you will ever be, but the sights on this gun are pretty nice for being stock sights. It has a front fiber optic sight and not a blacked out rear, but it just has 2-dot rear. Standard sights, but they do work very well. I'm able to get on target very efficiently. I'm able to sight in very efficiently. I'm able to transition very efficiently. They're nice sights. I will say the red little fiber optic sight in the front doesn't glow that bright in low light situations, but again, if you can't see your target, you probably shouldn't be shooting at it, and if you can't see your front sight, you probably shouldn't be shooting your gun, so there's that. Let's see, what else do I want to go over? Let's talk about the accessory rail. So underneath here, this is one of the things I really like. We do have a pretty decent accessory rail. Putting on this PL Pro Valkyrie, which is the same size as a Surefire X300. You'll see that it fits the gun very well. Obviously, it would fit a little bit better with the 5 1/4 inch barrel, but doesn't stick out too far. Fits very nice. I am able to reach the buttons with my finger here. So, yeah, I do definitely like that. And it is on there solid. It's cut right into the frame of the gun, so even though it's polymer, I'm not too concerned about it. Now, another small touch that I do like on this gun is the ambi mag release. And that may not be important for you, and it's not necessarily important for me, but let's think of this as possibly a backpacking gun where you're going to go backpacking with your significant other, or this is going to be your bedside gun. If the grips that you have on the gun are fit for your hand, but are too big for your significant other, your wife, girlfriend, spouse, boyfriend, unspecified gendered lover, gotta please everyone nowadays. If they're too big, they may not be able, or if their hands are too small, they may not be able to hit the mag release like I'm doing right now. They may need to shift their grip to the point that it's not really too comfortable for them, and it really isn't that efficient to begin with. So alternatively, put a button on the other side. That way, if you got small hands, you can just do that. And overall, the magazine, well, it's not flared, but the magazines themselves have a nice little, curve to them, nice angles. So it's not like I'm going to win any competitions, but if I did need to get a mag in the gun, I could. Again, not winning any competitions. I definitely need to practice my dry firing, but it works. anything else I really want to talk about the gun? Again, it's been reliable. It's really a nice gun. That's the gist of it. I have broken it down. I've taken it fully apart before. I've obviously been able to put it back together okay. The finish on it. Let's touch on the finish before we leave here. You may be able to see, I don't know how well you can tell, but there is a little bit of holster wear that is coming in on the front of the gun. That really started, like, I would say within the first 300 or 400 rounds of me having the gun. So very quickly after I got the gun. But the majority of it staying strong. It's only really where the holster rubs on it. So it is what it is. If you shoot your guns, if you work your guns, it's probably not too big of a concern for you. If you're someone who babies your guns and likes to keep them in a safe and keeps them all looking nice, maybe a concern. So anyways, you guys, I think that pretty much covered it. Covered the barrel accuracy, sights, trigger, pretty much everything. I would highly recommend, if you haven't yet, I would definitely recommend you shoot this with full power ammo and with the changed out guide rod and recoil spring. Obviously, if you're renting a gun, you can't do that, but I do definitely recommend if you purchase the gun or you have the ability to, it makes a world of difference. Also, I have shot a couple times, I'm waiting on a holster for it, but I have shot this gun with the light on the end, and you put that light on the end, you got no recoil with this thing. It's incredible. So, again, it's a great gun. I highly, highly recommend you check it out. Springfield Armory definitely isn't paying me for this video after what I said in the last video about them, but hey. Anyways, you guys, I think that pretty much covers it. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them down below. Make sure you tell me down below how I'm wrong about everything and don't know anything about guns, because I definitely love seeing those stupid comments. With that, you guys, thank you for watching. Think for yourself. Shoot straight. Check out this gun. And I will see you next time.